Everybody, it's Thursday, April 11th. Chapo's back again. Felix and I are joined today by our good friend Jacob Bacharach, and we'll be taking another dive into the Taylor Sheridan universe with Lawman, Reeves, and we've got some issues of the day. We've got a Jonathan Chait column to dispense with, but first, Thursday, April 11th, we'll all remember the day that O.J. Simpson died. We'll all remember where we were the day O.J. died, gentlemen. I know it's sort of sad to come on the mic, to lose one of the greats. And I'll say this about OJ: no matter whether you think he's guilty or innocent, he didn't murder anyone else in the time he's since been acquitted. He did not murder anyone else, or was even accused of murdering anyone else. So I think we should keep that in mind.
That's a really good point. I've never heard anyone acknowledge that. It's like, look, if he definitely murdered, he would have gone for seconds or third, especially when he was like doing other crimes, like he did an armed robbery. You'd think he'd be like, oh, while I'm here, I should kill somebody, but he didn't. When I said that, like, there were things that he did that I didn't agree with, everyone assumed I was talking about, allegedly killing his wife and her boyfriend. I meant playing football. I think football's boring. We don't know
Naked
if
Gun
he killed
films,
anyone.
the Naked Gun movies.
Yeah.
No one can ever take Nordberg away from him.
Yeah, no, that's unimpeachable. Everyone who was born in 2014, check out the Naked Gun movies.
I think that this actually opens up a very interesting question, which is that is the proper reform and restorative justice practice to not send people to jail after they kill their wives and their wives' boyfriends? Didn't that work? It prevented him from ever doing it again. If we had sent him to jail for it and then he got out of jail, he might have killed again.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but when the Goldman family won that lawsuit against him, they made him do like rehabilitation worksheets and like statements of harm. They made him do like Chaz stuff to rehabilitate, and it fixed him.
Yeah, I mean, like, why send someone to jail when you can just send them on Cameron and Mace's podcast? I mean, like, talk about if they're looking for a third mic to comment on sports now that Uncle OJ is gone, Mace, Cameron, give me a call.
I mean, I'm willing to go further than that. I am willing to run through an airport in a way that surprises an old lady in order to sell a food product or a type of insurance for a lot of money, since OJ is not here to do that for us anymore.
Well, we bid a fond farewell to the juice. I mean, Jacob, did you watch the OJ verdict in class? Did you have like the teacher bring in the TV stand?
That's a great question. I think I must have, but I don't really have any clear recollection of it. Although, I don't know. Well, I think I'm a few years older than you. So by the time the Simpson verdict came down, I was involved in certain experimental chemicals. And so my long-term
like plutonium,
like the proteins that AIs are folding now, all kinds of interesting stuff.
Felix, do you have any recollection of the OJ verdict, or were you too young?
No, not at all.
Yeah, all right. Well, you missed out on that, but no one will miss out on this one now that OJ is dead. I guess to begin today's episode, we haven't checked in on the election that's coming up in a little while, and I guess like the big thing that's going on this week is like, okay, we've given you on this program a lot of reasons to be to be feeling bad if you are a Democratic partisan about Joe Biden's reelection chances. I mean, like, the reasons are obvious, but the Republicans cannot stop banning abortion. And like, if you are Joe Biden or a Democratic voter, like, this is the silver bullet that you got in the chamber. Arizona just reinstituted a law that goes back to the Civil War banning abortions. And I got to say, the National Republican Party's response to this has been really something to behold, because they're all like, Trump basically said, we're going to straighten out the Arizona abortion law. And he says it's for the states. Arizona decided it. And then they said, okay, well, the Democrats have to repeal this law. And then they tried to, and the state Republicans stopped them. And then another Arizona Republican tried to repeal it, and that was stopped again. So I don't know. What do you make of this total schizophrenia with the Republican Party now as they back themselves into this corner as it regards to a woman's right to choose, or even like in vitro fertilization, which is now on the chopping block.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like the same thing that we've always seen with like abortion restrictionism. Like there is no coherent position on it. I mean, there is a coherent position, but not one that you can have in electoral politics, right? Like a coherent position is like the people that get sent to prison for 30 years for like bombing a clinic. Not that that's good to do. I don't, but like there's like some consistency in it. Whereas with this stuff, it's like I saw some flack on TV this week, some Republican flack saying that like, well, like it's not a big deal to like drive to another state. And it's like, okay, well, if this was murder, then you wouldn't be like, okay, well, just like take a bus trip to go kill somebody. It's fine. Like there's just like there's no internal consistency to any of it. And, you end up just making all these contradictory positions and just like sinking in quicksand. I mean, I don't want to call it too soon, but this has all the makings of the 50,000 vote election.
They really are the dog that caught the car with this abortion ban thing, because they don't know what to do with it other than ban abortion, which is like killing them.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it the other day because it's like Walter Sobchak in The Big Lebowski, except it's just like, so what you get divorced, you turn in your library card, you get a new license, you stop banning abortion. It's like they can't help themselves. And I agree with Felix. I mean, I think this is truly going to be the funniest and stupidest election of all time. I don't think it's going to be the last election of our lifetimes, as people keep telling me, but they've been telling me that for the last 35 years.
People have been hyping me on that good news forever. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm so sick of these fucking elections. Someone please do away with them.
Yeah, I think that every election after 2000 has been fixed. Bush stole in 2004. Obama stole in 2008. I don't agree with any of them.
I think that if they're going to be fixed, it should be more like when you're fixing a pet, which is to say that you never have to deal with it ever again.
Yeah.
There was an amazing article. I forget what publication it was in. It might have been like NBC even or something, that was talking about how the Trump organization the campaign doesn't exist. Like it has no on the ground operatives. It's got no money. And I've been seeing this like incredible degree of liberal triumphalism, like between that and the abortion stuff. He's definitely, it's not going to be as close as people think. And I think it's going to be close, but in some stupider and more geographically unimaginable way than any electoral college has ever been in the past. I can't even figure out exactly what it's going to be, but I think
Rhode Island is in play this year. Yeah. It's coming down to Delaware and Rhode Island, and then in that case, Joe Biden's got the inside track.
The Alex Garland election.
Yeah.
I think you're right, and it's like it's all going to be a function of extremely low turnout. Like I don't think it's going to be exactly only 50,000 votes like we've wanted for a while, but it is going to be a very low turnout election, and we'll see some really weird shit.
But yeah, like it's just the Republican schizophrenia over. Yeah, Trump says Arizona's Supreme Court abortion ruling will be, quote, straightened out, but they don't seem to know how to straighten it out. But I do want to turn briefly to the New York Times and their take on this from yesterday. The headline: "Two imperfect messengers take on abortion." They're taking it on. They're 10 paces at dawn for the right to have an abortion. But I just want to read here from it. It says, it says here, I'm reading a few paragraphs down. It says, if you were going to invent two candidates, the first presidential election since the fall of Roe, neither side of the abortion divide would probably design the exact candidate they have. They are both white men. They are both old, and neither has always said what their respective side of the debate wants to hear. Although Biden's shift on the Hyde Amendment is not as stark a reversal as Trump's flip over the years from pro-choice to pro-life. I just like the idea that, like, if both sides were designing their candidates, it'd be like, well, obviously, obviously the pro-life side wouldn't want an old white man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Republicans would ever choose that as their perfect candidate.
First of all, the fucking New York Times, man. Two imperfect messengers is the most Doris Kearns Goodwin ass headline I have ever heard in my life.
Team of imperfect messengers.
Yeah, that's right.
What would a good messenger look like? Like
for the side that wants to criminalize abortion.
Well, like for
Trump,
any of that, like for any of this, like what?
Maybe a woman. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, on the Republican side, it would be a guy with a sighted long gun at 600 meters, close to an abortion clinic, and
but he's not white. Like a Pacific Islander who's doing that.
He's somebody who lives in one of the Texas border counties and has decided that he also wants to build the wall, and his last name is Melendez. The coming Republican Hispanic anti-abortion coalition, another thing that I've been promised in my lifetime that hasn't quite arrived yet. And I don't know what the Democratic candidate would look like. It would look like Amy Klobuchar tossing Plan B from the back of a float in the Macy's parade. It's really hard to imagine what an ideal Democratic messenger would look like on abortion specifically.
Yeah, you might get Plan B, but you might get a stapler thrown at you. But I don't know. I mean, it seems like Joe Biden keeps saying, he said the other day, vote for me because I live in the 20th century, when asked if about the Civil War era law about criminalizing abortion. He was like, we're bringing women's health care into the 20th century.
Oh God, where's Christopher Moltisanti to set him straight?
But Joe Biden, he must remain loyal to his capo on the abortion issue, because he's personally against it, and I guess that's why he's an imperfect messenger to protect women's rights, is that he personally opposes them. But,
he's still doing that thing where he's like, before he says anything about abortion, like no matter how much things have changed since like 1993, he's like, I mean, I'm against it. I think that a woman should be exiled from her village if she does it. I think it's gross. I think you should throw out the woman and the dead baby. But these Republicans are out of control. He's still doing the like like it should be rare but safe thing, the hallmark of Democrats during the Bush years. And it's like, we're so not in that moment anymore.
Well, he is saying that he wants to federally reinstate Roe v. Wade at the federal level. He is saying that. That's the carrot he's dangling for voting for him.
The thing is, I'm going to take back what I just said. Joe Biden is the perfect Democratic messenger on this issue, because what do the Democrats believe, if not that the most honest thing you can do is precisely the opposite of what you actually believe?
Yeah,
like,
yes.
The mark of Joe Biden's sincerity to a Joe Biden supporter is the fact that his support for abortion is utterly insincere. It's like, that's how you know that he really means it, because he doesn't actually believe in it, but he knows that that's what you're supposed to say if you're a Democrat.
Yeah, and also, like, there's another thing that Democrats were like, the most virtuous thing you can do is the opposite of what you're supposed to believe in. If it's a difficult choice, like, i.e. Israel, they're like, no, he hates killing all these people, but you understand, because it's so difficult. It would be easy just to say, no, I'm against that, but that's what people expect of him, and it would be too easy to do that. It wouldn't be morally serious or complicated if he took a stand different from the one he had on, let's say, Israel and Palestine.
Yeah, right. It's so agonizing to do. It's so agonizing to do the thing that I wanted to do anyway, but shouldn't have wanted to do, but said that I didn't want to do, but I'm doing anyway.
Yeah.
That's the campaign slogan.
That'll sound great in an ad. But yeah, I mean, I guess like the sort of Democrats are starting to feel their oats, because, like I said, Republicans can't stop banning abortion. And then like we've talked about this before, but like news stories about how like the RNC has just been converted into raising fund, like a GoFundMe for Donald Trump's legal fees. And I mean, like, these cases are going ahead. So, like, I mean, in addition to the 50,000 person election, like, are there going to be campaign events during this election? Or, like, both guys just going to, like, because Biden doesn't want to be out there on the stump. He's going to be doing the Rose Garden campaign for sure. But Donald Trump, he's got, like, court dates to fill. He's going to be in the Southern District of New York campaigning there for a good chunk of the election.
The Trump campaign is like one of those LLCs that people on TikTok make where they're like, just start an LLC and borrow $50,000 and then start another LLC to lend $50,000 to that one.
I showed up at the 2024 presidential campaign. I picked up a broom, started sweeping, and
yeah.
It's amazing, like, how not only broke they are, but like how like shitty of an operation it is. I mean, it really wasn't that long ago that they had like the most, well, maybe efficient isn't the right word, but like most robust like evil fundraising machine. And now it's just fucking cratered.
Did you guys read about the like California used car financing guy who provided
who just gave him $1 billion?
and then it turned out he didn't actually have the money to begin with.
Oh wait, the California used car dealership guy, the used car dealer magnate, doesn't actually have the funds to cover this.
Yeah, it turns out, and I don't quote me on the details, but it turns out that he may have. You'll be totally shocked to learn, among a California used car dealer supporter of Donald Trump, he may have misrepresented his own current financial position on the surety when they were posting for the bond. So it's like,
that's the new donor class for Republicans. Like it used to be that the donor class was just like the 7 most evil guys who work at Standard Oil, like everyone who's ever gotten naked and fucked each other at Bohemian Grove. And now it's like, I mean, it's like Grant Cardone. It's like guys who do like Instagram lives where they're like, if you're in credit card debt, you need to start day trading.
But what I like about that guy is he has the heart. Like, he was just like, my president needs me. Here's $1 billion. What? I don't actually have $1 billion. Okay, but look, it's the thought that counts. It's the instinct to do it. And Joe Biden's raising a lot of money from people who have money to donate. But like, this campaign is going to be like the unstoppable force of total apathy and disgust versus like the immovable object of just like the complete cretinous criminality of the Republican Party.
I think that, like, to get inside the head of the used car guy, I think that, like, he didn't think he was lying. It was probably like a TikTok investor motivation thing where he's like, I'm going to commit $1 billion. So then, like, I'll have motivation to accumulate it over the next week.
Yeah, totally. He strikes me as I feel like he's going to be like this round's Mike Lindell, but I think that like the difference, and this is the reason why I think that nobody should be overconfident on a Biden victory, is this guy strikes me as, unlike Mike Lindell, as understanding how to do exactly the right amount of cocaine.
Just be careful. It is Moorish, but just a little bit will do you. Just a little bit to get that confidence up. To get on that magic beam of just being charming and gregarious, but stop before the shadow people are tailing you in your car everywhere you go.
What I like to call sweating through your shirt, but not your suit jacket.
Yeah, the Steve Bannon specialty. Before we get into take another dip into the Taylor Sheridan universe, I just want to ask real quick, are we going to be at war with Iran by the time this recording is done? Because if so, I'd like to take the day off.
So I think that, to me, there's another broken promise of America. Yeah. Because just the same as for the last 2-3 decades of my life, everyone has been promising me that this is going to be the last election ever because the 14th Reich is coming. For at least the last 20 years, I've been promised that we're going to go to war with Iran. We're going to go to war with Iran during sometime after the first Gulf War. We're going to go to war with Iran after George W. Bush Gulf War. Somehow Obama was going to get drawn into conflict with Iran. Trump killed Soleimani. That was going to start war with Iran. But it never happens. It's a tease.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're spoiling for it. But yeah, like I find it hard to believe that there are people who in like the Joint Chiefs of Staff or the Pentagon that like really want to do this, because it's just like, oh, Iraq went so swimmingly. How about starting a war with a country that's like 3 times the size of Iraq and like has a real military? But I mean, I don't know. Israel's spoiling for it. I mean, they just blew up their fucking consulate in Damascus, probably with U.S. Approval.
That's one of the wildest things. I mean, first of all, what an astonishingly provocative thing to do, but also like there's like one of the State Department guys afterward. I saw the press conference and they were like, do you have any comment on like the legality of this? Because aren't embassies the sovereign territory of the countries to which they belong? And so like, isn't this an assault on isn't this an assault on the sovereign territory of Iran? And the guy's answer was basically like, oh no, the law just says that the country that the embassy is in can't invade it, but if anybody else like wants to lob a bomb
as you see, there were fringes on the Iranian flag in the consulate, so it was subject to maritime law, and the rules of the sea are such that it's now anyone who can plunder it, they become the rightful owners of it.
Yeah, the atmosphere is technically subject to the laws of fluid dynamics. Therefore, it's part of the ocean. Therefore, it's subject to admiralty law, and therefore, the usual laws of armed conflict don't apply.
I mean, like, I have no way of like knowing if this is the time that like Iran actually does it, but it does seem like, yeah, Israel has been doing everything possible to draw them in, probably to like, I don't know, like make this not seem like the Gaza war. Like,
right.
If they make it a regional war, then it's not so gross to like be by their side. They're like not so much a pariah anymore, they probably think. And like maybe they're right. Maybe that would work. I don't really know. So I would assume the perception from a lot of people would be that they kind of caused it. But Iran is sort of like the king of, oh, they're doing it tomorrow. They're doing it 30 minutes from now. And then nothing happens until like 3 years later, you know? I would be shocked if there's like a massive conventional response that we see like today, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like, it seems like they've been masters of playing it very cool in the face of, repeated provocation. But I worry that, like, there are domestic political concerns in Iran as well. And, I mean, they may feel the heat to just be like, well, if we keep playing it cool, then they just keep attacking us. Like, at what point are they like going to just have to decide, well, they're going to attack us one way or the other. We should probably just retaliate.
Right. At a certain point, you kind of have to do something. I think we could diffuse tensions by not like the entire American military, but what if we, like, just as a surprise, we're like, here's a division of Marines that are going to fight for you. And and we'll just like see how it goes. If you win, you get to keep them.
we can let Iran sign any subdivision of any of the branches of the U.S. military on waivers, and see if that helps their squad next year.
Yeah. No, we'll go to the transfer
Houthis
portal.
Get draft picks in 2025.
That's what I would do if I was president.
I mean, honestly, I think that that's really just how all militaries around the world should work. You just, first of all, sorry, baseball fans, but I'm a hockey guy. There should be a salary cap, right? So that the small market teams and the big market teams can be competitive. And then we should see a little more movement of personnel between them, so that the competition's a little more dynamic from season to season.
Unfortunately, the Farsi interpreter assigned to the battalion of U.S. Marines was involved in a gambling scandal, and unfortunately, he stole $16 million of the Pentagon's money, placing bets on horse racing. But the military should absolutely work like sports.
I'm the law of this land. I'm Deputy U.S. Marshal Bass Reeves. And your wicked days are done.
Okay, enough of the news of the day. Let's go to the news of the past. Now, Jacob, a while back, you recommended, because, our series on Tulsa King and just the general, Taylor Sheridan extended universe. I mean, this guy has, 15 different shows on TV. There's Yellowstone 1893, Yellowstone 1923, Yellowstone probably 1963, soon to be coming out. But you recommended Lawman Bass Reeves. Lawman Bass Reeves, a show about a few words, but lots of laws. And if I could describe this show, it's sort of it's a show where it's a upright man in a badge, and he says things like, "It's gonna be hard today. Reckon it will be. Hard don't mean good though." Yep. That's my impression of the writing on Lawman Bass Reeves. But if I guess the elevator pitch for Lawman Bass Reeves was Taylor Sheridan wanted to do a show based on sort of Reddit Civil War historians who want to remind you that black people fought for the Confederacy too. That's basically the first episode of Lawman Bass Reeves, which had me scratching my head a little bit.
Yeah, this is the most Biden coded show ever. If you had only watched the show, you would assume that Biden has 95% approval ratings. This is almost about a guy that Joe Biden would talk about knowing. Yeah, I knew a black guy who killed a bunch of Union soldiers. And he was a good guy, and it's the perfect mix of Biden era politics. I didn't know anything about this show going in, and when I watched the first episode, and there's that scene towards the beginning where the slave owner is
played by Shea Wiggum.
Yeah,
who I always love to see in any TV show.
He's telling Bass Reeves you're not going to the Celestial Kingdom. He's being racist while they're at a campfire. I just thought that he was Bass Reeves because I looked at him and I was that looks like Bass Reeves, and I was Bass Reeves is gonna have to undergo some serious changes if I'm gonna root for him. I mean, he already owns a slave. I don't know if I can cheer for this guy, but turns out he was talking to Bass Reeves.
I think the elevator pitch for this show is sort of what if Jack Reacher were an old-timey version of Omar from The Wire or something?
Yeah.
It's also the Taylor Sheridan of it all is very funny to me because aside from that whole opening episode where Bass Reeves, an enslaved black man, is fighting for the Confederacy and doing a damn good job. Talk about
he's giving them Yankees hell.
Yeah. It then goes into Felix, it goes into he becomes almost like a success win, a very taciturn version of one, but nonetheless a success win guy from TikTok. The way that he talks to his wife and the way that he talks to his partner once he becomes a marshal is so much just about you got to get up in the morning and put both of your boots on facing forward. For a guy who was enslaved for the vast majority of his life, he's presented as this sort of oddly optimistic character despite his taciturnity.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. That it's Taylor Sheridan imagining a guy who lived through slavery who's yeah, but I'm not woke.
Jacob,
I was a slave, but I'm not into this identity politics shit.
Jacob, you pointed out to me probably the best line in the second episode of the show is Bass Reeves and his wife, and they're both free now, and they have a homestead, and they're attempting to be farmers. And his wife says to him at one point, they were both enslaved together by Shea Wiggum. She says to him, "Back when we had nothing, we dreamed of everything." It's sort of slavery isn't just you're poor and you're just trying to make ends meet.
Yeah, this is what we dreamed of back in the neighborhood. When I was looking at the guys at the cab stand across the street, I always
wanted to be a lawman.
I always wanted to be a lawman. I could park they double parked their Conestoga wagons. They didn't move for anybody.
Jacob, yeah, you might remember David Oyelowo, who plays Bass Reeves. You might remember him. He was in Reacher. He was one of the corrupt cops in the Tom Cruise Reacher, not the TV show Reacher,
Yes.
the Tom Cruise movie Reacher with Werner Herzog.
Yes, the one true Reacher.
The only true Reacher.
I do actually enjoy the Amazon series, but I'm a Pittsburgh guy, so I have the first Reacher deep in my heart.
So basically, Lawman Bass Reeves is about another weird thing about this show is that like every episode jumps ahead like 4 or 5 years, so it's a little hard to like keep track of the coherent story. I think they should have just started with him being a lawman rather than have a whole episode about him being sort of freeing himself from Shea Wiggum after fighting for the Confederacy. And at one point, like a fellow slave says to him, "You're shooting the wrong side," and he goes, "We ought to be shot in the front and in the back." I'm just like, what? What is this mentality? What are you talking about? And like Shea Wiggum makes him do like a cavalry charge into cannon fire, and he's like, "Come on, boy, we're gonna get him." And he's just like, "All right, okay, sure. I'd love being in battle for the guy who owns me."
Yeah, but they treat it like the first time a Jewish coach realized that you could put a black guy in a basketball.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Bass Reeves. He really does not miss. Like there's a couple scenes in this show where they get like bushwhacked at like a campfire. It's like lit only by moonlight, and he's got like a posse of like 4 guys with rifles closing in on him. And every time they peek out from behind a tree, he just plants one center mass in each one of them. Like Bass Reeves, he's a dead shot. He does not miss. And that's why whether you're the law or the Confederacy, you want to draft a guy like this, they'll be on your team.
Yeah, and how did he pick up that skill? Like when he was an enslaved guy in a southern plantation, where they just
he had a lot of practice at the firing range. Yeah, they gave him guns to play with all the time.
I can't see how this would upset our socioeconomic system here in the South if we let all of our strapping young men learn how to shoot the apple off a guy's head at 500 yards. What possible repercussions could there be?
So it's basically about like similar to episode 2, because he speaks the Cree language and has a kinship with the Seminole people who are now settled on land in Arkansas, is where the show takes place. He's recruited by Dennis Quaid, who's like this salty old dog who's a U.S. Marshal, and he recruits him because he's going after someone who speaks the Cree language, and he needs his kinship and sort of relations with the Native American population so that he can arrest and kill one of them. And he does that by like Dennis Quaid. There's here where he like throws a Molotov cocktail at this guy and sets him on fire. And it's like Lawman Bass Reeves, like his measure of empathy is that he just shoots this guy in the head rather than letting him burn to death.
Yeah, but I feel like that's another like Sheridanism. I feel like every one of his series has at least one scene in one episode where something horrible has happened to a guy, and the only thing you can do is blow his fucking brains out and put him out of his misery. Like, and that's like,
that was like in the first episode of Yellowstone, right? There's like that guy that like blows up a meth lab and like he's burnt to a crisp, and like there's some mercy killing going on there.
Yeah, he loves that. He loves a character who collects like 39 heads an episode, but is like, I don't kill because it's fun. I do it because I'm really good at it, but I don't enjoy it. I don't like a guy burning to death.
Reckon the law's tough, but fair. Tough but fair. Reckon the law's tough, but it's fair too. And like that's basically like most of the dialogue on this show. Donald Sutherland shows up as a hanging judge.
Yeah.
Is Donald Sutherland a fucking vampire? I think he has been playing this exact same role since Eisenhower was president. He has been 75 forever. What the fuck is going on with that guy?
Yeah, they're just like, we need you. Can you come and be the Hunger Games guy, but in this old timey lawman show? And he's like, yeah, sure.
Do I have to shave? No. All right. Okay. He's got that white beard, that shock of white hair, and his like eyebrows are overgrown. Yeah, Donald Sutherland, he's the greatest.
Always happy to see Barry Pepper
Barry. Okay,
when he turns up.
Now, Felix, you've watched the whole season. Does Barry Pepper come back? Because he's in the first 2 episodes, and I'm like, ooh, Barry Pepper. But he goes away for like episode 3 and 4. Does he come back as like a nemesis to Bass Reeves?
Yes. Okay.
Excellent.
Pepper returns. There's a dynamite Pepper scene.
I lost steam after the first like 3 or 4 episodes. The first 2 episodes were so absolutely kooky, especially because he doesn't do any lawman stuff like what you were saying.
Yeah,
like,
it takes forever to
get there. Which is so weird because then over the next like couple of episodes after that I did watch, it does jump. It's like then it covers these like massive swaths of space and time. So it's like very strange that you would do this super slow burn where basically nothing happens. He spends like half of the first 2 episodes just being laid up in a lady's house, recovering from his wounds, and then just like rushing forward to be like, okay, now he's got to catch a lot of bad guys.
Yeah, it's paced like a video game. Like it is like just not conducive to casual watching. If you turn away for like 10 seconds, they've jumped forward like 17 years in time. It's insane. Like
a car is going by.
Yeah.
I went up to get a soda. What the fuck? There's an airplane now?
Yeah. It's actually is sort of paced like a Steven Seagal directed DVD era movie. This is probably originally like a Steven Seagal movie. He was going to be Bass Reeves.
I'm going to tell you one motherfucker.
Back when I was a motherfucking slave. I'm
going to tell you one motherfucking thing about God. He didn't forge these chains. Man did. And his paradise is soon to come, motherfucker. And I'm about to send you there, honky.
I would actually like to see Seagal in the Judge Parker role. Like, let's get Sutherland out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a role that he can be seated the entire time.
Yeah.
So it's perfect for him.
He does not have to move, not once at all.
He doesn't even have to like speak in period accurate language either. He can just like talk how he does in The Asian Connection. Yo ass go hang.
Well, that's part of the one of the other funny things here is that like, yeah, they love to throw in like, yeah, I reckon, or like I done seen, but like the people who are writing this show, this isn't Charles Portis. They're like, so like,
to say the least, yeah.
So it's like it's basically just like taking the dialogue that you would just give to fucking Kevin Costner in Yellowstone, and then adding a couple of like what you think are Civil War flourishes that you probably heard in like the voiceover in a Ken Burns documentary, and just like depending on everybody being like a taciturn olden days guy to get you through the fact that you just like can't write these characters or these people or this era at all.
Yeah, if you want to do a period piece, just add the words sir, ma'am, reckon, rightly. just add that to any regular 21st century conversation, and you're talking Bass Reeves now.
And speak everything in a low rumble, especially if you're a man.
I guess like the thing I really love about Taylor Sheridan, and you see this in Tulsa King, which is strange because it's like it's the outlier in his output here, but it's about a guy from New York City who makes a go of it in Oklahoma. It's about like the only people from cities that Taylor Sheridan likes are clannish organized crime guys who have honor and care about family and class. But what I love about Taylor Sheridan is that like his shows are all about like how people from rural areas are just better than everyone else. I think that's like that is the main message of Yellowstone. It's like in the first season of Yellowstone, like who's the villain? The goddamn Yimby who wants to build affordable housing in Montana.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, let me say, as someone who both grew up in a rural area and someone who lives at least part of the time in one now, I can assure you that that's not the case. The authentic Volker just is terrible. But the other thing about Sheridan is like, And this is the other way that Tulsa King is the outlier. Tulsa King is the only one that has any sense of fucking humor.
Yes, it's the only one that's funny. Yeah, Tulsa King is fun. I had to stop watching Yellowstone because every character is like pulling teeth. I hate all of these people so much.
Yeah.
Yellowstone is like, it's engineered to watch with a taciturn father-in-law. Just a deeply like uncomfortable self-seriousness that pervades like all Taylor Sheridan stuff except for Tulsa King. I don't know how he made that. It's so enjoyable.
Does Stallone have a producer credit on that? I wonder if he has.
I believe he does. And actually, like this is a bit of breaking news. This story came out yesterday. Headline: Sylvester Stallone's alleged bad behavior pushes extras out of Tulsa King. The Taylor Sheridan drama's casting agent quit after Stallone allegedly insulted multiple background actors. And it says here, according to
I don't care. It's not 2017. We're not making Sylvester Stallone, fucking donate to an activist theater company now. It's not 2017. Pack it up. He could kill an extra and I wouldn't care. I want to see what Dwight the General Manfredi gets up to. Yeah.
No, but his complaints are, this is really good. It says, where Sylvester Stallone, the star of the Paramount Plus series, is accused of turning the set into, quote, a clear toxic environment for extras.
Oh, no.
And it says here, according to Deadline, Atlanta-based firm CL Casting left the series due to Stallone and an unnamed director's disrespectful treatment of the actors they had hired. Multiple affected artists shared their experiences on a private
affected artists.
They're called background artists, Felix. Including one who accused Stallone of referring to some of the extras as, quote, ugly, tub of lard, and fat guy with cane. The person in this third comment was responded on Facebook that it hurt his soul to hear himself described that way. Yeah, but I mean, like, he was cast to play the role of fat guy with cane. So,
yeah, you're an extra in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
like you think like what do you think like people there look like?
Who does Stallone think he is? Joe Biden? Shut up, fat.
It says, according to producer Craig Zisk, denied many of the claims. According to him, Stallone never said any of the alleged offensive monikers, and the casting agent wasn't even on set that day. The actual issue, he said, was that her firm was supposed to hire 25 to 35-year-old actors to populate a hip young bar, but the extras she brought in were considerably older.
I wanted this bar to be full of young tail, and you brought me nothing but middle-aged divorcees. I'm going back to my trailer until you fix this.
So Stallone is the greatest. I don't care how he disrespected this fat tub of goo in the background. I just want more Tulsa King. I could do without the rest of the Taylor Sheridan universe, though, to be honest. The 4 episodes I saw of Lawman Bass Reeves, my ultimate judgment on them was boring as watching paint dry.
It's really dull. Like even when they're moving the plot along, it is grueling. It's like eating a cereal bowl filled with just like grain, like unprocessed
ancient grains.
Yeah,
it's just dry ancient grains. But it's not. But unlike that, it's not good for you either. This show also rots your mind.
It is the highest form of, I guess you could call it, is that the guy core? The sensation that we experienced while watching The Reliant, where just like it's a collection of different guys in vests, and you're like, is that the main character? Is that the main character? Same thing is going on here. It's just every episode, Bass Reeves, like, he kills somebody in an honorable way, and then some like a guy who lives in a cave or something is like, the evil guy lives around here. And Bass Reeves like, what the hell do you mean, the evil man? And then he just spends
there ain't no good men or evil men. There's just men, and the Lord done created all of them.
Then he
Please
just
hire me to write on the show.
The rest of the episode just going to various like basements and crawl spaces and talking to like every dirty guy he can find and being like, who's the evil man?
Is that Crawley Cobb that we have to? And then it's just like, yeah, it's a succession of Bass Reeves pistol whipping guys who look like Conor O'Malley at poker tables.
They should do a crossover and make Bass Reeves go after those guys from the Hills and Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yes, I would love to see that.
A showdown for the ages.
Yeah, that may complicate Bass Reeves' sort of rather for the 19th century progressive and humanistic outlook that they're red, brown, white, don't matter. We all just men. Some bad, some good. And then, seeing the cannibals in that movie cut a guy in half may sour him on his love of humanity. I don't know if the Lord made that or not. Okay, that's enough Bath Reeves. I do want to get to this Jonathan Chait article that I've been doing for a week now. So I think this is a classic Chapo reading series because it's Jonathan Chait. I haven't said that name in a long time.
He fell off.
He really did fall off, but he's back now. I'm just going to read the headline is the left-wing authoritarians shutting down the Democratic Party. Once again. I've been sold this. I've been lied to so many times. So many times I've been just given this tantalizing glimpse of an authoritarian ruler banning the Democratic Party and jailing its leaders. We'll see if Jonathan Chait gets us there, but I'm not holding my breath. But this is basically part and parcel of a lot of the kind of bargaining phase of liberal Zionism right now, which is basically like, I know Israel destroying every school and university in Gaza seems bad, but think about what's happening on universities in this country.
I kind of missed Chait. You do gotta hand it to him. He knows exactly how to be the most annoying of that specific type of bald guy who writes magazines.
Yeah.
I will say, compared to like the people who have sort of replaced him in our cultural consumption, compared to like Richard
Hanna-Barbera,
Hanaria, whatever. Like those guys are all like freaks. They're all the weirdest people who ever fucking lived. Literally, if they lived in any time before a Substack, they would be forced to live in a cave by their village or town. But Chait is like, he's a normal, annoying guy, Yeah. He's a very recognizable character in people's lives. He's the guy at your office who, takes a sort of like an annoying, unhealthy interest in a 23-year-old who works there. And it's not like a Me Too thing. He's just really annoying. He's just always cornering this poor girl and being like, I've noticed you eat a lot of bowl meal.
It's like, you're right, like, because he comes from like a certain professional pedigree, so he can always get away with the sort of ain't I a stinker sort of attitude without doing what Richard Hanaria does, which is providing what he describes as moral clarity on Israel-Palestine by quoting Sam Harris saying Hamas is worse than the Nazis because the Nazis didn't try to kill women and children. It's just like, what are we doing here? Really? Because that's how bad it's gotten for supporters of Israel is that they have to say that Hamas is officially more evil than the Nazis.
Yeah. It's not only that, in my mind, like ultimately those two guys, their position on Israel is like the same at the end of the day. Right. But with Richard Hanania and like guys like that, the thing that like I don't like about them is that it's just like it's like the normal conservative stuff, right? Like that's like 70% of their writing, like affirmative action and Israel Palestine. But then like 30% is just like the grossest thing you've ever read. It's just like I tried anal sex once, and the girl ended up in a coma. What's wrong? What's wrong? And it's like, ew. Why do you have an entire?
And here's why
subset?
no one else should attempt what I did.
Yeah. It's like, ew. Why do you have an entire like sub-blog about like hand job injuries?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you? And like, at least Jonathan Chait isn't like gross like that.
Yeah, why I converted from Seventh-day Adventism to Eastern Orthodoxy, because one time a girl put her finger in my butt. But other guys, like the Matt Iglesiases of the world are just like, that's just a guy who somehow you end up like across a table at like a dinner party listening to him talk to you about something that happened to him when he was an undergraduate. And you just can't, there's just no way to get him to stop talking about some class that he took. But like John Chait is just, he's like Podorets. He's like mad that his Schnipper's order is late all the time. It's like, like with this article that he wrote about, oh, how terrible it is that people stand up and yell at Democrats at campaign rallies. It's just like, this is just such an inconvenience to me. It's just like such a fussy way of looking at the world. I mean, oh, you were so eager to hear what Kamala Harris's chief of staff had to say about the EV tax incentive. Like, act like it's somebody who like ran up on stage during the encore at like at the last fucking Taylor Swift concert or whatever. Like, give me a break. Were you really that concerned with what you were about to hear?
Yeah, it's very well. Jacob, I got to read the first paragraph of this because it's so funny. Pay attention, kiddos. This is how a pro works. Imagine a world. This is like a movie trailer. Imagine a world.
In a world that's powered by violence. On the streets where the violent have power.
In which Congressman Jamie Raskin attempts to deliver a speech on democracy, autocracy, and the threat to reason in the 21st century, and is unable to deliver his remarks because Trump supporters drown him out, and authorities justify the disruption as an exercise in democracy. These are the kind of scenes that come to mind when we imagine the authoritarian culture of a Trump second term. They are also events that have not only occurred, but have grown commonplace. This pattern of behavior is illiberal and dangerous. But I just love he says, imagine a world in which Congressman Jamie Raskin can't deliver some boring fucking speech because people yell at him. I'm imagining it right now. It sounds great, John. What are you talking about? Jamie Raskin can't talk about unreason in the 21st century?
Hold up. Gen Z is trying to cancel Jamie Raskin?
Not him.
Oh, hell no.
Not that guy. Not that standard bearer of the Democratic Party people who don't spend 48 hours in every 24-hour period staring at a computer screen.
Yeah. I feel like if you watch a Jamie Raskin speech and you don't like work for him or lobby for him, maybe you shouldn't be in prison, but you should definitely be on like a list that everyone can see. That's just insane behavior. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
It's like for people for your weird liberal relatives who will take you aside at a family function and just like make you look at video clips on Aaron Rupar's Twitter stream. Like, AOC destroys Republican congressional witness. It's like, okay, I understand this is the content that you like, and I understand that there are people in the world who just want to see people's skincare routines, and there are people in the world who just want to see like smash videos. But like, it's just, it doesn't have the cultural currency that people like John Chait think it does.
Yeah,
that is like watching a Jamie Raskin speech is like those guys who are so into football that they follow like high school teams in states they don't live in. It's like you are
threatening a high schooler because they didn't cover the spread. In a softball game. Yeah.
If you catch a relative watching a Jamie Raskin speech, you need to send him to article rehab. No articles for like a few years at least.
I skipped the best part though. He says, because Trump supporters drown him out and authorities justify the disruption as an exercise in democracy. Democrats attempting to raise money for the opposition are surrounded on the street by Trumpists shouting, "Fuck Joe Biden," and abusing them with racial epithets. The twist, of course.
What are the racial epithets?
Oh,
sure, this will be great.
Cracker, honky,
Presbyterian.
It says here, the twist, of course, is that the mob shutting down the opposition to Trump are not Trump supporters, or at least not right-wing Trump supporters. Pro-Palestinian activists have set out to disrupt Democratic Party officials from speaking and raising funds to defeat Trump. A New York Times story recently drew some attention to the political problem this creates for Democrats. Indeed, some of the protesters are trying to defeat Biden, ergo to elect Trump, to teach the Democrats a lesson. And others are merely trying to force the Democrats to move left before the election. Isn't this just called like being in a democracy? Like these are campaign events and like you said, fundraisers. Like should that be shielded from political criticism? Like you should just be able to like give campaign speeches and raise money unfettered when you're doing a war that people are opposed to. But apparently you can't yell at their houses either. The
way that he like characterizes fundraisers is so precious, where it's like, this is money to defeat Trump. This isn't at all like a Byzantine Rube Goldberg device to pay Robbie Mook like way too much money. This is specifically the anti-fascism fund.
It's also like it's a moral universe in which like it's totalitarian and intolerable and illiberal to heckle someone when they're giving a speech. But it's like justifiable to bomb a hospital because there's like an underground parking facility nearby.
Yeah.
It's just so crazy to me. That's what people should start saying. They should start saying, well, I only disrupted the speech because I suspected that there might be a tunnel beneath the venue.
Yeah. I know. And when he says here, they're trying to teach the Democrats a lesson, or really trying to force them to move left before the election. It's just like, isn't that called petitioning the party that's trying to earn your vote? Like, I don't, what are the other options here, John? Please enlighten me.
And isn't this the thing that like you were supposed, like, if you were like, listen, I am to the left of everyone. I support fucking Liz Warren. But if you don't vote for Biden, you should kill yourself. And like, well, the reason we're voting for Biden is we're going to push him to the left. We're going to do this. Well, now everyone's doing that. They're doing that. It's just like on an issue that you think is sacrosanct.
But the only way you're allowed to do it is by writing articles and posting. And the posting should be measured.
Yeah, it should be civil. But also, like, as long as he's indulging in sort of like make-believe scenarios, like imagine a world in which Jamie Raskin can't finish a speech he's giving at a fundraiser, and people chase him into the parking lot and yell "fuck Joe Biden" at him, and also hurl racial epithets at Jamie Raskin. I mean, okay, let's imagine someone doing that to Donald Trump and his supporters. Imagine Donald Trump getting booed out of booed out of giving a speech and chased into a parking lot with people calling him fatso and bald. Would you have a problem with that? No, I think that'd be funny.
It would be
especially
funny
if they were yelling racial epithets at Donald Trump. That's hilarious. Yeah. What are you talking about? Certainly not a threat to democracy. I mean, like. So it says here, but the problem is not one of mere efficacy. Drowning out speakers and disrupting exercises in politics, regardless of its cause or the target, is wrong on principle. I'm not referring to tactics like holding protest marches, speeches, social media posts, organizing uncommitted votes in the Democratic primary, or other exercises of First Amendment rights. I'm specifically referring to a campaign to shut down speakers who oppose, or in even many cases simply decline to endorse, the movement's agenda. Usually it means interrupting speeches with screaming insults until the protesters are dragged out of the room, which has become the norm at Biden campaign events. At events with sub-presidential levels of security, protesters often succeed in overwhelming the event and its security and shutting down the speech or event entirely, sometimes employing violence. I'd place in the same category aggressive personal harassment campaigns, like gathering outside someone's home at 3 o'clock in the morning with bullhorns shouting, "We will not let you sleep," or surrounding individuals on the street to scream insults.
Oh, so he disagrees with the United States treatment of Manuel Noriega.
He's not a fan of Van Halen? No, but it's just like, Jacob, like you said, like the context of this is just like some of the worst atrocities that like we've ever had the displeasure of witnessing. And he's talking about like sometimes the speakers even yell at people so loudly they have to leave. And it's just like, to go home to their house where they sleep safely and comfortably and have food to eat. Like, what?
just like, how is anyone still writing this article? Like this article was like overdone in 2013. I'm sure. I think Jonathan Chait has written this article 20 times. Did the world need this again? This is why he fell off.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like this article is like his version of like the green juice that Steve Jobs used to drink, which is just like, if I do it one more time, it will cure me of this malady that's been eating away my body and soul for all of this time. But it's just not working. But he has faith in it. I sort of like that. Like, I think he does actually believe that if he keeps saying this in public in effectively the same way over and over again, that it's going to work. I mean, as if people in the Democratic coalition haven't been interrupting campaign events and national conventions going back.
There was a fucking riot in Chicago.
60s, yeah.
Yeah, there was like one of the incredibly violent riot in Chicago during the 68 Democratic. And why? Because there was a fucking war that was killing millions of people.
Yeah, why can't these guys at my favorite sporting event just sit politely in their seats and stop yelling so much? I'm trying to watch the game.
It says here, the goal of these maneuvers is not to make the case for pro-Palestinian policy, but to abuse and deny basic rights to those who fail to endorse the protesters' beliefs. I mean, once again, it's just like, okay, yeah, let's take that, let's agree with that, for the sake of argument. I mean, what is there left to do but abuse and deny the basic rights to people who don't share these protesters' specific belief on this? Because it surely isn't just saying like, hey, I'd like the people I vote for to behave differently, because they're not, and they never will.
Is it a basic right to like be a Zionist and then like the next day you get to make a speech about, I don't know, mindfulness and democracy or whatever the fuck the Jamie Raskin speech was about? That's not a human right. Is he talking about like the audience has a human right to hear Jamie Raskin speak?
Well, he says, and yes, being prevented from holding a planned speech to supporters, stalked on the street, or subjected to sleep denial are all forms of abuse. Sleep denial, like it's fucking Abu Ghraib. Yeah, like they hang him from handcuffs from the ceiling and blast music at him 24/7. No, there's just someone banging pots and pans going like, no war, no war. Put some fucking earplugs in, for Christ's sake. You're fine. These people deserve a lot worse.
He wakes up at like fucking Homon Square. The Chicago police pull the black hood off of him. He's shackled to a chair. And they're like, we're here to talk to you a little bit about the Palestinian experience. And no, you can't call a lawyer.
It says here, almost nobody believes that these are all just natural parts of the give and take of public disagreement. The most elemental premise of liberalism is that politics should be governed by a uniform set of rules or norms that apply to everybody, regardless of the content of their beliefs. Oh, really? Does it apply to people living in Gaza right now? It certainly seems like it doesn't. This is they're excluded from the universality and elemental nature of liberalism.
The thing is, he doesn't even believe that.
Of course
these
not.
People don't even believe that in the domestic sphere. Like, there's John Chait imagined that like the ideal liberal future of America is like Ian Banks' luxury space communism, where the robots run everything and everybody has an equal right to have articles in New York Magazine. Like, no, of course not. Because in that type of like end state, everybody gets to speak and everybody's voice gets heard environment, then there are no John Chaits and there are no Jamie Raskins. So it's like the idea is actually that like a certain number of people have been selected through a process of like professionalism and advancement to have a right to give a speech about whether or not Vladimir Putin makes me feel sad in the morning. And everybody else is supposed to just hear it passively. And likewise, like that like the only mechanism through which one engages in politics, if one is not Jamie Raskin, is just by voting. But you're also not allowed to withhold your vote because that's also a liberal.
That's intimidation.
And a form of intimidation.
It's a form of voter intimidation. When I say I'm not going to vote for X or Y candidate, you're intimidating the people who do plan to vote for them.
You're like the guy when everybody goes out to dinner and the waiter comes over and says, "Who'd like to look at the dessert menu?" And you're the guy who ruins it for everyone by saying, "I'm not really interested in dessert," and then everybody else feels like they're bad if they order dessert, so nobody gets dessert.
Everyone feels like a fat guy with a cane is sitting at that table. But okay, here's a great paragraph. He says, abusive protesters usually meet critiques of their illiberal methods with a facile comparison to the civil rights movement. But that movement was designed for a political environment in which basic liberal rights did not exist. Black Americans lack the right to vote, to petition for grievances, or otherwise exert basic freedoms that white Americans enjoyed. Can you see? Can anyone identify for me why this, speaking about this particular thing that people are protesting, is in fact comparable to the civil rights movement?
Once they gave Bass Reeves that job, racism was over, and that ended the need for people to be disruptive to political speeches. So I simply don't see why they should be allowed to do it now, when certainly Black people are treated in this country in a way that is definitely equal and fair to everyone else, if not more equal and fair to everyone else. I can't think of a single incident or historical event within the last 5-6 years, including ones that Jonathan Chait has written about, that might give you the impression that there are any persistent civil rights inequities or inequities in access to voting in the United States of America. Can't name a single incident.
Well, yeah, and if you want to extend that to Palestine and the occupied territories, let's just go. Yeah, right. It says Black Americans lack the right to vote, to petition for grievances, or otherwise exert basic freedoms that white Americans enjoyed. It's just like the condition of people in Gaza right now. They have significantly fewer rights than that. And that's why people are mad at Jamie Raskin.
They couldn't vote. They couldn't vote even before the Israelis started bombing the fucking place. What are you talking about, man? It's like, couldn't get passports. You couldn't leave the territory without permission. Sometimes if you left the territory without permission, you'd still get arrested. People were being killed. People's homes were being expropriated in the West Bank. I mean, it's like, I remember in the article, he tries to immunize himself from this argument, because he says, he draws this distinction where he's like, everybody now is a victim and victims have special privileges. But then the people who claim to be representing the victims claim to have the privileges that the victims get, which is an absolutely like wild thing to say.
Yeah, the privilege to have your family killed. Like, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah. Well, he's saying that there's a privilege in having your family killed, and then by the transitive property of privilege and victimhood, people who are standing up in speeches and yelling and making political statements are claiming by proxy a victimhood which they don't deserve. Yeah,
I mean, once again, it's just like any bargaining to get away from like the essential fact of what's going on here. It's like, who has the right to protest on behalf of Palestinians in this country? I mean, what about like if you're a Palestinian who has a relative in the West Bank or Gaza right now? Does that transitive property extend to you if they've been killed or are facing death right now?
The thing that's so odd about it too is that it's like it's solely based on this sort of annoyance that like this might make things like marginally more difficult for the Democrats to get for Joe Biden to get reelected. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, as lots of people on the left and lots of pro-Palestinian voices have been saying, like, I mean, Joe Biden he doesn't have to even come out and say like, I recognize a single multi-ethnic state from the river to the sea. He doesn't have to come out and say, I recognize Palestine in the 1967 borders. He can say like, we're going to suspend new arms shipments to Israel. We've given them enough so far, but they can do whatever they want with what they've got. Honestly, that's probably enough to bring a lot of people back into the fold. Like my read is that like it would be like almost a minimal effort for him and his coalition partners to move subtly and probably ultimately meaninglessly in the direction of like the many of like interlocutors for Palestinian rights, life, and freedom. and that they would probably reap benefits from that. So like, even as a cynical calculation, the fact that they can't do that and we have to be subject to these moral lectures is, awfully obnoxious at the end of the day, to say the least.
Well, Jacob, I mean, even if they did make that ultimately at this point, probably a symbolic gesture, that even if it did redound to their success electorally, it's the principle that matters, because they will have been forced into that position through thuggish intimidation.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, sent to the countryside and deprived of their classes. Yeah.
So it says civil rights demonstrators had been shut out of electoral politics by force since Reconstruction. The pro-Palestinian movement, by contrast, is barely even attempting democratic participation. The movement could have run an anti-Israel candidate against Biden, but never bothered, no doubt anticipating they would lose. I mean, like, I don't know, look at the polling on like what Democratic voters feel about this issue right now. It seems like there's sort of a mismatch between Jonathan Chait's perception and the reality here. I'm just going to finish it off here. It says, the ethics of the cause come into sharper focus if you imagine it being done by Biden haters in red MAGA hats rather than by Biden haters in kiefas. Sure, they're idealistic. Plenty of Trump's followers have ideals too. If your movement's goal is to prevent those who disagree with you from expressing themselves and you delight in meting out abuse and humiliation to your targets, you're showing the world you cannot be trusted with power. To which I say, I cannot be trusted with power, because that's exactly describes my politics. I do not think people who disagree with me should have a right to voice their opinions.
This is just such like a bullshit workaround for someone who spent like the last 6 years complaining about like identity politics and like wokeism, to just like dance around the fact that now that it's his turn, he's suddenly very into those things. He's now very into the idea of like cordoned off spaces that are like free from any interference or, feelings of being unsafe. I don't know what he means by there being like racial epithets, but I assume it's just like Zionist, probably. It's like, this is the exact same like identity politics shit that he's complained about pretty much his entire career, but he's dressing it up in this the end of rational politics.
I don't see him complaining about racial epithets when people say orange man bad.
It's like, does the thought of Democratic politicians being verbally abused by people angry about their genocidal policy towards Gaza, you like that? Well, imagine a scenario that's completely different. Still like it? I don't think so.
I mean, also, like, Democrats at this point, I mean, at least the presidential candidate is like completely immunized about this sort of thing, because one, he doesn't know what's going on. Like, does it matter? Well, Joe Biden's lower jaw unhinges like Alien as he puts an entire ice cream cone in his mouth. Is he noticing that, like, on the far outskirts, somebody is yelling like "Free Gaza"? I don't even believe this stuff is as disruptive as Chait wants you to believe it is. Like, even just like leaving aside all the totalitarian talk or whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, once again, like, there are always hecklers in the audience. So regardless of the content, this is part of the raucous, robust American democratic tradition, going like all the way back to the Adamses and the Jeffersons calling each other's like sons of snakes and whores.
Yeah, it's the oldest lesson that like everyone should have learned back in grade school. Don't dish it out if you can't take it. And if someone's fucking teasing you, give it back. Do a little crowd work, Jamie Raskin, and be like, hey, I don't come down to the place you work and knock the dick out of your mouth. Like, get some classic zingers like that. And, like, this threat of illiberal authoritarianism will lose a little bit of its bite if you can just do some insults. Just get some riffs off.
And you just know that, like, John Chait is also one of those American liberal guys who's also like, oh, the Prime Minister's questions in England is so great. The give and take, the insults, the jeers, and the quick wit. I love watching it. I wish we had a forum like that in the U.S. But then when he sees the equivalent of it, he recoils in horror.
That, listener, is how you write a fucking column. That's how you get paid the big bucks by New York Magazine. Thank you, Jonathan Chait. It's been too long. All right. That does it for today's show. Jacob, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thanks for hanging out, and thanks for recommending Lawman Bass Reeves. Will I finish the next 4 episodes? Depends on how desperate I get over the next couple of weeks.
It's my pleasure to be on. It's the second most boring thing that I recommended to you after the sci-fi miniseries version of Children of Doom. So,
oh, that rocked. That was phenomenal. Dennis Villanova, eat your heart out. That's how you make a Dune adaptation.
Great being with you guys today.
Yeah, great talking to you. Till next time, everybody. Chris, do we have anything to plug or share?
Still think some tickets available to the Movie Mindset Death Wish 3 screening on May 4th. So link for that in description.